Hello everyone, the first episode of The Hot Seat was already a month ago, quite a long time, and the reception has been fantastic. So thank you everyone for the messages and the love and appreciation. We truly believe this format will flourish in the future. Now in the last month, a lot has happened, a lot of announcements. Of course Gamescom was in the middle as well, so lots of things that to look at, but an interesting thing happened, and I wanted to sort of take a moment to look into it specifically. Dawn of War Definitive Edition launched back a couple of weeks ago, and in a short amount of a couple of weeks, 10 days actually, Dawn of War 4 was announced. Two games in the same IP, in the same lore and with the same brand, launched and announced in the same time. An interesting one, considering that Dawn of War Definitive Edition was announced only a few months ago at the Skulls Festival, a festival of Warhammer games that happens every May. So 2 months ago a game was announced, and in the space of only 2 months the guys at Relic managed to collect over 30,000 followers. Quite a big number considering the type of game, considering the game is a remake or a remaster of an existing product. They also managed at launch and since launch to collect a huge number of players at any time. In any day since launch, at least 10,000 players are playing in the same day simultaneously. A big number, a very big number for a game that's kind of old as well. So you know, this opens the topic of remakes and remasters, or call them re anything. You know, we've had Oblivion releasing at the start of the year. We've had Tony Hawk. There has been, I think, there's been Final Fantasy Tactics announced and coming soon, and Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater from the makers of Oblivion, by the way. So it's kind of a specialization these days. Also in our segment of the market, the strategy games, you have Stronghold is a very good example of a game that's been remastered or remade for modern players. It's interesting to see this, because if you look at how our market is shifting towards legacy games and trying to capture audiences on existing audiences, and bring them to sequels and future games, it's interesting that this kind of pattern repeats itself for quite a while. So look at what happened with Age of Empires. Age of Empires 2 still has a massive amount of players playing the game, the original remastered game, and at the same time Age of Empires 4 struggles to get to these numbers. It's an interesting pattern if you look at also at other games like Civilization. So Civilization 6 is still much more popular than Civilization 7, that is again struggling to get these numbers. Doesn't mean that the game isn't gonna get there, but it's taking time to do this. One game that made it for sure is Total War Warhammer. If you look at numbers of Total War Warhammer 2 as opposed to Total War Warhammer 3, that's a game that managed to sort of bring the players and drag them into the new one. So it's going to be interesting to see how these games will evolve over time. Civilization is one game that we'll certainly look at, but if you look at what is going to happen in the next few months with the release of Endless Legends and the new Europa Universalis and Anno, there is a lot more of these, IP development, and how these players are going to be transported into the new era for that IP. This is definitely something we'll look into and update you on, because it's very interesting for us as well. We're also going to give you more indication on that as it evolves with the release of Dawn of War 4 next year. We're here to do this. This is our sort of environment, and we'd like to keep you on board with it and look at how things evolve. This is the hot seat. The wrong starting, but anyway, the guests today are not going to be the same as the first episode. Don't worry, this is going to be a different show today. They've already told me that I'm not smiling enough, so here's my smile, and I'll try to be a bit more cheerful. Guys, a lot of stuff happened whilst we were away. Mainly Gamescom. Last week we were at Gamescom. Lots of exciting stuff happened at Gamescom. Exciting announcements. I guess that for the first time since a long time, a strategy game was on the top 3 of most followed announcements in a show. This hasn't happened for a long time. Lovely to see that Dawn of War 4 is the announcement of the show, basically just after Lego Batman. So a great start of the show for us. Great to see that RTS games are gathering so much attention universally now. It's getting back to proper huge numbers. I would say that it's not, the numbers are not as they were back in the past. RTSs were something that was like mainstream. I don't think that RTSs are going to be back in the mainstream, but I think that having games that announcements that break such big walls is going to help bring these games back to a certain level of attention. So definitely great to see that happen. Another announcement we really liked at Gamescom was Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hopes from our friends at Dotemu. Great idea for the use of Battlestar Galactica, and also I don't know if we're sort of seeing people trying to sort of replicate what we've done in the past, but it's interesting to see that taking a developer who's really strong in a specific type of genre and attaching a big brand to that developer, seeing that Battlestar Galactica Scattered Hope has bringing these elements of roguelike and the fleet management to a Battlestar Galactica game. Really looking forward to that one. Check out the trailer, it's really cool. And the other big announcement at Gamescom was Tropico 7, going back to a different developer, same publisher of course, that's still Calypso. A development team has been proven multiple times they can run management games from Railway Empire onwards. Looking forward to seeing how Tropico develops. Again, interesting to see. Probably one of the few games that is managing to keep releasing sequels in a meaningful way, adding innovations, shifting gameplay a little bit towards different directions. So you always have your favorite one in the series, but this one is going to be interesting to see how it develops. So follow it and check out. In the month of August, there has been another announcement. The Guild was announced. The Guild is an interesting city builder set in the 1400. Interesting why the development team is, this is published by Embracer or THQ, or I can't remember what's the label, but it's an Embracer game. The developers from Last Train Home. A great strategy game development team. This is a game about sort of building a city builder within an era that's really not explored much in video games. So looking forward to see how that pans out. It's also interesting to see that lots more demos are releasing. I have to say that there's an ambivalent kind of approach towards demos. Some people think it's absolutely fantastic to have them. Some people think it's just watering down your potential audience. I kind of think that there's a lot of demos on Steam. There's almost 20,000 demos on Steam. Add to the 60,000 games being released there over time and still being present there. It's a lot of content, and the more you give ability to players to play free content, maybe the less they're going to play the premium games. On the other hand, it's a great way to showcase something. So interesting to see how demos are being used more and more these days. A few demos I'd like to point you to. Repterra is an interesting real-time strategy games with dinosaurs, developed by a small team in Ontario, Canada. Really lovely game. Check it out. Dark Switch. Dark Switch is an interesting city building game where you build like vertical cities on trees. Really cool, and you've got to avoid the fog. It's an interesting take on how city building was sort of starts to be a bit flat as a genre, as everything is a bit like samey, and trying to build something kind of different. Looks cool, has a bit of Frostpunk vibes in a way, survival vibes as well. So it's interesting, an interesting game for sure. Syntopia, this is kind of a cute one. I really like Team 17. The game is about running hell basically, and making sure you take care of all your sinners. So it's a kind of an interesting take, and some old-fashioned vibes as well there. And then Menace also has a demo still out there. It's actually demos coming in September for Menace. So these are the games that are sort of highlighting as interesting and varied enough, so that you've got enough variety there in the games you want to explore in the next few weeks and months. The idea of the starting of the opening topic was very much linked to, of course, this Dawn of War release of content, definitive edition and announcement of 4. Also, I was really interested in the words of Take-Two bosses about Civilization 7 and how Civilization 7 is, according to the word, exactly where they expected it to be at this stage. It was a rocky start. The Civilization 6 players and 5 as well were a bit skeptical about 7. Now, some of the player count is growing. The sentiment towards the game is getting better. It's interesting because sort of we are experiencing the same, or kind of the same, with Broken Arrow in a way. Look at how a game, when you launch it, it's not over, right? It's like it's the beginning of a journey. Of course, you launch it and everyone loves it. It's perfect. Launch it and you've got criticisms and issues and such. You've got to it's an exercise to bring it back to where you wanted it to be. It's not always easy, and I see that it's a long a journey towards where you want it to be. I think Civilization 7 is probably a good example of a game that you want it to be something different. Everyone is expecting something. Everyone is expecting something different, and you want that interaction with the community to make it better, or more aligned with the community expectations. So interesting to see how that goes. And on the other hand, Stormgate, another one that proves us that when you launch, you've got certain expectations, and then you sort of grow into something different. Stormgate released 1.0. a very solid RTS with expectations to replace, what StarCraft was or has been or still is. A rocky start. Early access wasn't really, great at the start. Now, it's getting there in terms of what they wanted it to be and what the community wants. But again, is there still time to bring it to where it should be? That is always a big question to ask. And also, developing a game costs a lot of money. Maintaining it for so long until the community, gets what they want is even harder. So let's see how that goes. We'll keep you posted and we'll keep following all these developments. Super interesting to see what happens. Lovely also to see that what you guys expect from these games, because again, RTSs are back, but also there's a lot of other strategy games out there that are interesting and deserve a lot of attention. Okay. So, our first guest today is a guy who's developing games on his own, and he's an amazing character, and he's solo developer. It's interesting because most of the people we talk to, they want to be called, big high names, and so what's your job title? I'm a solo developer, which is great to start with. So my first guest today is Tomas Sala. In a few seconds. Thomas, welcome to the hot seat. Interesting solo developer. I mean, think about it. I think one of the biggest development studios in Europe, CD Projekt, has over 1,500 members. Most of the big development studios have hundreds of employees, and you're making games on your own.
Yeah. Well, mostly you can't be purely on your own, but I do most of the art, programming, or all of the art and programming, considering the core game.
What's the process of doing things on your own?
You wake up, you have an idea, and you go make it. It's literally the practical process is just doing it. It's just sitting down, making the game, and exploring what it can be. It's a sort of a, it's 1,000 little steps. I think that's the most important thing it's just small steps combined, and you have the discipline to do it for quite a long time, and then in the end you can do great things.
How do you make it, like, you've got like a number of things to do, right? You've got all the art to do, you've got your programming, you've got your features. I want to make this feature. How do you gauge? Is it going to be 2 months' time? Is it going to be, if something is 6 months' time, are you going to make it, or are you going to just forget about it? How do you invest your time in?
So there's a sort of a high-level idea I want to get out, something I imagined, or a bit of gameplay I have a visual for, but it's not super detailed. So I don't do any design documents. I don't do a lot of I do a lot of thinking about it, and then suddenly it's not a fully formed idea. So my process is very much, and this is why I never work great with students, about exploring what the game can be. So it's like a very fluid way of developing, where you're making something, and then you have a good idea, and you go, oh shit, if I can only spend a week on this, I can see if it's interesting. In a big studio, you can never do that because everything is mapped out. You have your sprints, your Jira.
Because you come from bigger studios, right?
From a bigger studio, yes. And but this is what I like to do. This is what keeps me motivated. It's for me, the game that comes out at the end is a string of accidental discoveries which I found interesting to do. So it is a very artistic, way of working. I like, it's you think about something, but you don't have a concrete idea, and then you start shaping and peeling away all the layers until something interesting reveals, or not, and then you throw it away. But most often something interesting, and then you have to look and analyze. So there's an intuitive phase, and then there's an intellectual. How can this be useful? How can I use this in a game? And sometimes it's not, and then you park it, and it comes back a year later or in a different game. So for me, it's a very exploratory way of making games, and I think that's fully possible now because the tools are simpler and the things you can do are greater. But it's a different approach from most studios.
The thing is that I guess with solo development or when you're on your own, you've got constraints, right? There are some things that you will never be able to do, right?
Yes, there are.
How do you work towards these, and how do you sort of adapt?
So I used to do a lot of work for hire, and then you have to sort of be very good at what you promise you can do, because then if you're not on time, you're in trouble, or you don't get paid, and you want to, survive. So part of it is just the skill of gauging what you can do is a skill, and it's a skill you gain through experience. And you look at something and you think, okay, this design is a lot of work, and then you might want this. You look at other games, you get inspiration, and you think there are entire sections. So people have which you can't touch as a solo dev. Huge interfaces with lots of buttons and lots of testing, because then you need to check if everything's working. It becomes a cumulative load. So you can't do that. So you always have to look for the most efficient, effective way. So I call it just moving sideways. When you see something which you cannot design, or which will be a mountain later on, you move around it. So you design around it. And this is when people play my games, they sometimes don't like it, because I find all these different solutions to the same problems. And for me, that's enjoyable. It's okay, I can't make a really big, good shop interface, or like a giant inventory interface, because you can make it, but then you have to test it. And every update you do, every content change, you have to test this giant interface if all the buttons are working. So that becomes a no-go area. So how then the design question changes. How can I make this story beat or this sensation I want to transform, but not do this giant design like it's done before?
Do you have any sort of instance where you sort of started doing something and then you realized, I can't do this? Is it
all the time.
Okay.
All the time, but there's big ones like multiplayer. I know it's become such a cascading waterfall of things you have to get right, that it becomes I know some solo devs do multiplayer, but that's a specialization. On the whole, there's not a thing I can do, there's just ways I cannot do. So I can say, well, I want to make a city builder that's organic and it's a free open world within 20 square kilometers. I can do that, I can design that, the tech is there, I can think around the streaming data issues by being more effective. But for instance, I can't make it procedural, or I can't fill it with lots of side content. Because that's what people say, you can make it look like a great AAA. Well, you can, some indies and solo make it look like a AAA game, but you can't fill it.
Okay.
You have to write there's a limit to the amount what you can do. So you have to either condense it, make it smaller, or find a way to make mechanics that keep on being interesting. And this is where strategy mechanics and stuff are excellent choices, because they keep the player engaged while not having to have another cutscene or another bit of production value. So.
How do you keep your kind of motivation going? Because when you have a goal set by someone else, or a client, or a target, it's... So you've got to set your own targets, you've got to do your own meetings, you've got to sort of... it's hard, right? I
find this much less hard than being in the studio, because there's no meetings, there's when you run a business, the responsibility I felt was crushing. Responsibility for people's jobs, for their incomes, their mortgages, for your clients' happiness, for larger commercial. I found that stressing. Being by myself, I'm only responsible for myself, and I'm for my family. So if I fuck up, I get to be angry at me, which is fine. It's a very short meeting. He's like, Thomas, no, you fucked up. Okay, make something better. So in a sense, it's less stressful. You need a lot of discipline. So I think that's the first thing. You need a lot of discipline. You need quite a lot of experience, I think, to build up discipline and to know where the mistakes are going to happen, where the pitfalls are. So I think those are prerequisites. How do you stay motivated? I have to, because I am a chaotically creative aligned individual. So I lose interest relatively quickly. If I start doing repetitive or I've already done something else. So I need to always be looking for something that stimulates, where I go, this is something I want to make. And then I can hyper-focus and be in there for a week or something. And so for me, that's the system I've developed, where I allow myself, this meandering river of exploration. We go, and I can lose myself. And then I have the discipline to, once I'm done or I've achieved some sort of level, I always force myself to polish everything so that it looks good, so that it's usable. And then I start thinking, how can I use this? And that's literally, when I did the Falconeer, I love boats as well. It's an ocean world. I want to have sailing boats. And then I am a fetishist. I want the sails, because I know how to sail. I want the sails to have proper orientation to the wind and that they tack properly. So they do the tech art for it. I make the sails, I make the shaders, and it's a happy time making all of that. And then I made a boat that I could turn around and could go anywhere, and it looked correct. With the sails well tack, it was simplified but looked good, and that was excited. Then I wanted to make 100 ships. But first I had to look at, okay, Thomas, now we're going to have to add ships to the game design. How in the hell are you going to do that? And I think that's the discipline part, where you go, okay, these parts are useful, these parts aren't useful.
Because to make things even worse, you are not making the same game type again, right? You
no,
from game genre to
yeah. I'd always try to be smart, but I always end up flying off somewhere, literally. So the first game was a classic retro air combat game in the style of Crimson Skies. I do work in the same universe, so I get to recycle. I think people don't say that, recycle your technology, recycle your toolkit, recycle your artwork. I upsample everything, or not upsample, but the first ships were fairly simple, and I just a month ago I spent like a week just making all the rigging, the side rigging, anchors, and so adding whole new level of detail for a remaster. So it's nice to fiddle with things, but yeah. It's a lot of chaos, but I enjoy that.
That's cool. The thing is that you have to sort of deal with some level of expectation towards what you do, right? So first of all, you set yourself to I want a 2 years development time. Is that something you do?
Yeah, I do. My bank account does that for me.
Okay, cool.
The money runs out. I wish this is the dream, that you can just sit at the creative pace, but a bit of pepper up the ass where you have a deadline is important. So I do generally make my deadline. Sometimes that's not super beneficial, but I find that after 3 years, I'm also sort of saturated myself with a game, and I just want it out the door, and I want people to play it, and I call it just pissing over it, have their opinions, hate it, love it, and then I need to take a small break, and then I can come back and start working on it again. So it needs to meet the rubber needs to hit the road. So I find 3 years is a good time span, and because then your internal motivation is gone. You've emptied the vat, and the only thing that can then sustain you is your community, it's the players. They can come in, good or bad, and say, okay, I love this, but this. And that is another struggle in itself, where you have to learn to listen, and which is really hard when you spend 2 or 3 years by yourself on this personal exploration, and people say, this is shit. So there are cases where I've just finished, like 4 months ago, a new way of selecting stuff because I made this fancy 3D selection mode and people weren't gauging the distance and it wasn't like other games and people kept complaining. And then internally go, no, I don't want to change that. I don't want to change that. I don't want to change that. And at some point go, okay, I'm going to try it. And they're all right. All of them were right. It had to be different. And then you change it.
Big buzzword in the industry now is validation, right? Validation.
Yeah, validation.
Do you validate stuff? Or?
Partially. So I am the king of saying to other, I'm not the king, but I am a great proponent of saying, if you're just starting out, validate. Because there's lots of indies and small devs and they start making a game and they don't validate or they wait too long. So in the small scale, you don't see if anybody has an appetite for your game. If you don't have an appetite, if you're not sharing early, you're also not getting that motivation to continue. It becomes very hard, and that what happens as a creative person, you start to look inwards. It will be better if I have more art. It will be better when the voice acting comes in. It will be better when I add the levels. And you start to close yourself up from what's actually happening with your game, and it's just one more year or one more month. And so that's a super dangerous situation. And the other situation is where studios are more or less in the same situation, and then the ambition becomes too big because it's easier to add. If we add multiplayer, then you don't have to deal with the fact that you're not having enough wish list, and you should actually take the loss and stop. So I think yes. So validation is great. It's great, especially for indies, because you have only so many times. The age, I call it. We need to kill the age of game jams, where we come up with a new idea every week, and we see what sticks. And that is not working in the market. You really have long-term strategies of the types of games you build on tool sets and be efficient. But the other side of that is that if you over-validate, you can't be original. Because then if you ask any gamer what they want, they will always want what they already love. This is a hallmark of a fan, is that I love a certain game, I have great memories of a certain game, might not be realistic to the reality 10 years ago or 5 years, but you have these expectations. So people their job isn't to design games, some of them is, but most people, they want to have more of those happy experiences. So when you listen to them, you're just going to make more of what exists. So that is the opposite of validation. That and I often say you can do two things in today's market. You can be the best or you can be the first. Okay. And it's a lot easier to be the first, because then you don't have to be the best. If you say, I'm going to make another roguelike card battler, you're going to have to be the best roguelike card battler. Otherwise, you're not going to be, because you're fighting against a history of that genre. Whereas if you're the first, you can be innovative and make something crazy, and people will come and go, I have no expectations. I didn't know this genre existed. I don't know this game existed. And you can stumble. And after you, people will come and make better versions of that game, but you already staked your claim. And I think that's the easier way to go. So cultivating in your studio or in yourself a method, and I do that by creative exploration and meandering, but a creative method that you can be innovative and that you're not stuck on, this is how that game do it. Because you see here, when you go on Blue Sky or God forbid Twitter and here, or Reddit, and hear people say, how do you pick your art style? How do you pick, how to make a inventory? The first thing, even out of art school or game design school, is you look at all the other games that made a great inventory and then you copy the best one, which is a solid strategy. But if everybody does that, you're going to only make the same.
Yeah. And in terms of being a sole developer, it's interesting that it's something that you seem to master, but because you've been doing it for some time. Is it something for everyone? Is it something that everyone can tackle, do you think? Do you need a special character, a special set of skills?
No, I think it's something, there's been a romanticized image of solo dev, in that if you go on r/game dev, everybody, I'm a solo dev, I just started. So solo dev is becoming a byword for, I'm starting out, I don't have a team. So I am alone. And I think for me that's fine. I'm not in charge of what things are called. But for me, being alone and being successful is something that's more valuable at the end of your career, where you have this, built-up experience, what works, and you have this built-up frustration, and you have this sort of backlog of ideas that you can do. And being alone is a lot less problematic, because you have your family, you have your kids. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of famous, Roald Dahl used to sit in his garden house and write in a comfy chair. And he had a big life outside of it. So I think, yeah, that's. But when you're young, I think I used to work in teams when I was young, and I think you learn so much more from other people. There is a limit to what you can learn by yourself because you have your fixed, how do you call it, your barriers and your tunnel vision, and you don't have anybody pushing against you, showing you other ways how things can be done. If you start working in the team when you're young, everybody has new ideas and your ideas get better, your skills get better, and you will go up the experience ladder just so much faster. So I always say, I really write this so often, solo dev, it's an end station, it's not a beginning. And it's not even the best end station, because it's quite lonely and it's great for people who have, acronyms and neurodiverse. When you can be alone, it's fantastic, and when you've solved those issues. But if you're alone because you find no other means to create, there's no other option, that's not good. And when you still have so much to learn, it's not the best environment to learn in, because you're also going to reinforce all your mistakes again and again and again. You might get lucky, but I think it's the hardest path to take.
Do you think that, how do you deal with the idea of, I guess because you're building a world where a lot of, you're building a sort of a coherent world, and you've got a long-term plan. Did you start off with this plan of creating, I'm going to create this world, and then I'm going to build games around these?
No, I think I learned that. I think
okay.
But you stumble and learning is failing. So I tried to make an RTS game about the afterlife. Wow, a decade ago, and it was really dark and it wasn't fun. So from the bones of that, I reused some art. I made the Falconeer, and suddenly there was some bit of magic there. Where okay, this is more interesting. This is more uplifting, of course, because I'm a fairly bleak person, so I had to make all kinds of bleak world around it. But Flying Away, that first game was very dark and literally bleak. It didn't have a good ending, it didn't have a good story, and everything was about depressed, really. And the Falconeer is still that, but you fly away into the sky. Everybody has this dream of escaping and flying away, but it has this dark ocean world where the Bulwark, it's the same world where all the mysteries and secrets are, which is a fantastic story metaphor. And I saw it, I thought, okay, this has something, you can make a game that's only cool for you. And you can be acceptable art. I mean, you can be an artist with a big A and put it in a museum. But you want people to play it, they have to be able to identify and sort of get into it. And this escaping from your present situation on the back of a giant bird, I think it was a much more universal, appealing concept. And I could tag onto that all kinds of other concepts. So I had something, okay, this is here. And then when it became a success and found its audience, I think those are maybe two different things in how you define it, but finding your audience is a great success. I realized, okay, it was because I was burned out. It's a special piece of art. I realized, okay, this is not only for me, it's the best thing I ever made in a sense. I can't ever recreate the authenticity like your first album. Eh? Yeah. But also I analyzed what people thought. Okay, so it was a 90s style retro flyer. Okay, there's a reason that genre died out, so there's not a huge demand for it, so maybe the gameplay itself, but the world, everybody loved this world. They connected with this metaphor of the ocean, the sky, people riding giant birds. Okay, so this world is valuable. I'll take that along and work on it, which also has practical benefits about being reused and then improved tools. Those ships became much more important in Bulwark, and thus you can grow it out. And I thought, well, I'll make a city builder, because when I need to relax, I'll make tiny villages for the Falconeer. So maybe other people would like to make tiny villages for the Falconeer, and that's how Bulwark became a thing, and that became slightly more strategical and stuff. But it is, you have to luck into whatever you have to see when you have something, and I think that's a mistake I've also seen with my own studios. At some point you have a success, and then you think the success is you and not the product, and you think you can repeat it because you're the same, but actually the game was the success.
Talking about this, which is one of my kind of key questions there is, what do you think about this whole narration of solo dev and the idea of, hey, you can make it. It's possible.
I think
it's
it's-
great.
I
It's
think-
because you are, one of the flagship.
I think it's a nice story, and now I go and I'm pretty sour on being that flex. I've tried to bring realism to the discussions. So I think I like it for people that are artists or that it's a journey, and it takes a lot of perseverance, and you had a lot of luck, and it used to be easier, but it's still people make that journey because that's what artists do. So I'm all 100%. But the argument that's now being brought, we need to, the industry is sort of collapsing because games are too expensive and need to, Jeff Keighley goes, oh, it's solo dev here, solo dev, this is the future. If everybody becomes an indie dev, I have a couple of messages for AA and AAA studios. Yeah, we're going to be as efficient and small as. We're already here, we're already doing, we're probably better at making small, and it's hella hard. It's hella busy. So if that's what the game industry is going to do, and it's going to make cheaper games, then in general there'll be more games. It's just economics. And when there's more games, there's more competition. What's the differentiate? What's your unique selling points going to be? That you can make games as efficiently as some guy who has to make weird choices and weird design choices because he can't do the things you can do. Yeah, who can't lean into convention because the conventions are hard to make. That's not a survival strategy. The survival strategy is money. We can't go cheaper than we're already going. We can go mobile, but that's not sustainable. Then the other one is production values. Then it's going to be the game with the best actors, and you're already seeing that with the celebrity status of voice acting and physical mocap actors. So that's going to be where we spend money. So then still spending money is what's going to differentiate the different layers, or you're going to spend it in marketing. I think production isn't even the largest cost or going to be the largest cost in the future. It's always going to be marketing and eyeballs. In a super saturated market, the cost of, if you look at the music industry or even YouTube as a good example, it's not the cost of production. It's the cost of getting eyeballs, of becoming the biggest. And so I think if I'm really harsh, this is a lot of people who entered the industry and have no idea what they're talking about, now waking up to the fact that they're making no money and they're desperately looking for ways, how can we make this a business like any other? You can't. This is a hyper expensive, hyper specialized entertainment a deadly series where you fail more than you succeed style of business. So they can try, but I don't think they'll survive because they're going cheap.
Yeah, the thing about the narration behind it is that you're, I think, one of the first that got that. I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but you got that PR hook, Tomas Sala is on his own and he's doing. Do you think you've sold more copies because of that, or?
I think so. I'm very torn on that. It's great for So I believe that developers, and there's all this backlash about auteurs, but in the end, on YouTube you follow a creator, you follow a channel, and not the individual videos. So I think we're going there, where people will follow individual game studios, publishers, who align with their values and repeatedly, game after game, release games that are valuable to them, or in the majority valuable, and people will follow you, and that is the survival path. And you can grow from a small audience to a big point, instead of this hit cycle.
We're not very good at taking care of our creators in the industry, right? We only have Kojima, maybe, who's the flagship name, but there's no real,
I think most games are team efforts. I am an exception, and anyone that goes out, I want to play this Thomas guy game, it's going to be hella weird. It's going to make unconventional choices, because I don't have 15 people making a bloody inventory for you. So it's going to be a new, I'm going to remove all the interfaces, because it's also not fun to make. So if you like games that are picking new ways and a new flavor of things, but perhaps not the best ways that are the most intuitive, so that isn't a guiding light for the entire industry. That's just crazy. One guy did it. Ultimately helped me. Yeah, people know me, but it's also because I like to swear a lot and I have opinions. I don't know. In the end, I think I like to play a lot of high quality games like Kingdom Come Deliverance with very high production values that have emotive scripts where you can feel lots of people. There was a historian there checking if all the shoes were historical. I like that type of game. I don't make that type of game. So I think that the majority of gamers actually naturally would like the most high quality game, and they don't give a shit about how many people work on it. They might like a vision behind it, but they don't care if it's one by or team. But if you're by yourself, it will frustrate. So this summer I took a holiday and I am here and I was at Game Show. So I had 2-3 months where I wasn't productive. And then you see the community is asking for more than I can deliver. If I had a team, I'd have something working on updates and social media. If I take off, then everything goes whee. It pauses. So I don't think it's the way they're. I can do harsh thing, but I think the way they're touting solo dev and micro teams, it's a poverty of the big systems not working. And the reason the big game studios aren't working or the big publishers has nothing to do with production. It has to do with the type of games they put out, how they're not listening to the market, and the way they want to make money. And the way they want to make it isn't always super attractive. It's like, the enshittification of the internet, which we all see that is the enshittification of our industry, and somebody's got to pay the price. But the solution is not. We keep on enshittifying our games and doing more dark pattern monetization, but we're like Tomas Sala or like any other great micro team. I don't know. So it's a different cause.
Thomas, before I send you home being more productive for your community, I have 5 quick questions to make. So get ready. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What do you love about the video games industry?
I love creative people, passionate people.
Tell us one idea you threw away but you wish you would have done.
It was a game where it was that failed game and you had an RTS and you would steal units, souls in the afterlife, and you would traumatize them by making them stronger and more wild and more lost in their trauma. And if you played the game, the meta game was, but if you didn't do that, they became weaker and weaker, and the weakest form was a little cute sheep. And you could actually, the real goal was to win the game is to rescue all these small, beautiful sheep who just had no trauma. I'm still got to make that game one day.
Go home and make that game. Best RTS you ever played?
Company of Heroes 1, no doubt.
What do you hate about the video games industry?
Money, man. Suits. No, not suits, but money, man.
How many copies of your next game are you going to sell to retire?
I don't think I can ever. I hope to never retire. I don't know how many. If I go down that rabbit hole, I'll go crazy.
Right. Thank you very much. Cheers, Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. That was Tomas Sala, guys. We are going to have 10 minutes of Paolo giving us some good advices on tabletop stuff for about 10 minutes, and then we're back with our next guest, Per Wahlstedt. See you later.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Tabletop Corner. Last month, our friends at Battlefront sent us this very big box with a whole Japanese World War II army for the game Flames of War. Basically, Flames of War, until now, covered in the 4th edition just the Western theater, so Europe and North Africa and Russia. And now they released this other big book with all the armies for the Pacific War in the mid-war, so 42 and 43. Inside the book you can find the armies of Japan, and the US Marines that are in the Pacific, the Commonwealth, the British Army, and the Australian Army. And this box basically contains almost everything you need to paint and prepare an interesting Japanese army. Obviously, we didn't leave the box on the shelf, and it's a dirt job but somebody has to do. So I painted the army, and you can see the 2 platoons ready for action with the support of the artillery and the HQ in the front commanding the team. As you can see, I really enjoyed to paint this army because, as you can see, I decided to have the basis tell a story. So you will see that the infantry is landed on some far island in the Pacific and found this broken temple, and so they are scouting to see if there are enemies of the Empire inside. All the miniatures are from Battlefront, from the box that you can see here. We are just missing the tanks that are going to be painted soon. And while the props, the walls and the vegetation and so, is 3D printed. 3D printing is something that if you like to model and do painting miniatures, is something that you really need to try, because it allows you to scale down a lot of files and adapt to what you're doing. So for this case, I bought 28 millimeters, so Warhammer scale things, and reduced to have the props or the dimension I needed. And now let's dive into our, let's say, game of the month, Blood Red Skies. Our friends from Warlords sent us the game, the battle starter with Battle of Midway. So the box contains everything you need to play a number of scenarios set in the Pacific, with the US fighting against the Japanese. The box contains enough planes to do 5 scenarios. You can see there are also card-shaped ships that you can use in some scenarios, and also the clouds where you can go to flee from the enemy. Blood Red Skies allows you to play skirmishes in the skies of World War II, and basically into the box you find that these tiny and well-detailed planes. They come unpainted, but you can paint them up very easily, and also there are the decals, so you can finish them up. Once painted, they are very nice. And I think that Blood Red Skies has a very clever solution for one of the Achilles heels of any plane simulator in World War II or later. Instead of taking care of the altitude of the plane, that is sometimes a mess to understand, because you can see some other games with very high sticks to control the altitude. Basically, in Blood Red Skies, you have just the position of the plane. So if it's parallel, it's neutral. If it's in a very good position, it's advantaged. While if it's in a bad position, it's disadvantaged. So basically, all the game is a choice, because you can use the power of your plane. Basically, it simulates the altitude to dive. So you can go very fast, or can do strange or awkward maneuvers going into disadvantage. So you, for example, you can go on the back of the plane of the enemy, of the opponent, but you lose your advantage. Or at the same time, you can stop yourself, move less quickly, and go in an advantage position. This is very important because when you shoot to an enemy and you roll these dice, and basically it's important to do this kind of symbol, the ace. You can only hit the opponent if you are in a better position than him. So you must be neutral against disadvantage, or advantage against neutral. Otherwise, you can't even shot him. Obviously, as you can, bet, if you are on the tail, it's much easier to damage the opponent, but it's not vital to kill the opponent, because anytime you score an hit, even if the opponent managed to avoid the hit rolling better dice than you give to the opponent this symbol, that basically means that you have put stress on the opponent plane. If one of the players has a bigger number of these tokens than the number of active planes, the game ends, because basically the player flee from the skies. Inside the manual, there are a lot of examples to understand how it works. Actually, the manual is not big, but the rules are even smaller. It's just the first pages, so it's very easy to understand. Also, you have in the box, in the starter box, you have these sticks that allow you to play even on a flat table. I prefer to play with hexagon because it's more easy to keep track of the position of the planes. But you can play on just a blue board in the case of Midway, or a green one in the case of the Western Front. And also there are some scenarios. The first one are very easy introductory scenarios. Otherwise there are more difficult, where there is the task to hit the opponent's navy, so it's more difficult, or to defend. You have also these cards that explain how the plane perform, and also these kind of cards that gives some flavor to the planes. For example, this one is a heavy flak presence, so it means in this case that the fire from the ships is more heavy than usual, so it's more difficult to approach and bomb the ships. You can have a lot of kind of planes. Obviously, in the Battle of Midway pack, you have only Japanese and USR planes, but for example, you can have expansion with other American planes, or even German and British. And so you can expand and play the theater you prefer. I think that Blood Red Skies is a very friendly, nice, and good game that you can play with friends in under 1 hour. There are also tournaments. So if you want to play something that is a cross between a true war game and a board game, this is a fantastic opportunity. Also because, as I said, with the basic box, there are different ones, but this one is for Battle of Midway. In the box you find everything you need, the sticks, the planes, the counters, the dice, the cards, and so you can play for a long time with your friends just with the basic box. But I'm sure that if you like the game, you will buy a lot of expansions like I did. Thank you very much for watching the second episode of the Tabletop Corner. And don't forget to send your feedback, your ideas, and if you have any game, board game, or war game that you want to see in the next episode, to the email below. And see you at the end of September.
All right, yeah, my next guest is Swedish creator Per Wahlstedt. Close enough?
Close enough.
Close enough. Good, Per. Thank you very much for joining us. Per, I love your story, so I'm going to spend some time trying to sort of go through your whole experience. But you know, I will start from discs.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So, you know, you're the creator of one of the war games that is the most played war game in the office, at least.
Yes.
So we're a big fan of yours, and that's how we got in touch. But you know, and you know, whilst talking, you know, initially it was just, how do you start in games? And you have a game. You built the game, which is based on a sport which I didn't know about.
Yeah. So. Disc golf is a real physical sport, very popular in some parts of the world, Northern Europe and the US.
The US.
Yeah, very popular in Finland. They just had a world championship there, and I got into it about 10 years ago. And when I get into a hobby, I usually get into it hard, like all in. Yeah.
So you're training a lot?
Not now because I have small kids.
Okay.
I used to play it quite a lot, so. That was my first foray into video game development. I wanted to make a disc golf game. I worked in regular software development before. And there was not a lot of disc golf games out at the moment.
There were disc golf games though.
There were a few, yeah, but also on the hobby level. So it was a nice opportunity, and it was pretty successful, which led to me quitting my job in BI. And now we have a fantastic studio up in northern Sweden, in Skellefteå, who are working on this game, and it's super exciting.
So it's a thing, right? It's a thing that's been going on for how long?
So the game is like 6 or 7 years old now, yeah, but still has a good following. It's a sticky game. Once you get into it, you keep playing it.
I mean, I once you told us, you know, everyone in the office were actually looking at one of these, at least one of the shorts, YouTube shorts with very cool tricks and things, with this sport. It's really cool. It's really interesting and cool. And you were saying earlier on the idea of disc golf or golf in general is a perfect game design.
It really is. Yeah, it's a very good game loop. I've never thought of it like that before, but if you really break it down, it's really just about getting from point A to point B in as few actions as possible. And if you're playing regular golf, that's hitting a ball with a stick, right? In disc golf, you're throwing a frisbee, but it can really be anything. And I think we've seen that in some games. There's Golf with Friends, for example, which is just a wild take on golf. And even in other genres, I played Into the Breach, fantastic strategy wargame. That can also have, in some game modes, it almost feels like golf because you're trying to accomplish an objective in as few steps as possible. It's just you're not hitting a ball anymore; you're killing aliens with robots.
We're almost all playing golf nowadays. And then you transitioned to, and after all these great experiences, let's make a war game.
Yes.
Let's make the most opposite thing I can.
Yeah.
And that how did that come to fruition? How did that happen?
So I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 85. And I was into every nerdy hobby available. And the nerdiest, like alpha nerd hobby was, of course, Warhammer and war games, tabletop games. So I grew up with that, and then I grew out of it. But then as you get older, you kind of find your old hobbies again, and that was actually kind of fun. There was a lot of interesting gameplay design in that sort of genre as well. So I think I always wanted to make that game as well. Just something that captures that tabletop experience with the strategy involved in that, and there's a lot of deep history in that type of game. You can look back at Kriegsspiele from the 1700s, where they basically played the same game with the same strategy. You could probably find some old general from that time and have a discussion with him about flanking and refused flanks and stuff. They would probably understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the cool thing is that you look at at Seoul, and now you have a proper studio up there. They're not involved in Seoul at all.
No,
right?
that's a solo project on the side. Yeah.
And on going back to what we were saying with Thomas earlier, on the game you act as the designer, the programmer, the business developer, the CEO, the finance guy. It's like a lot of roles, right?
Yes, it is.
How do you cope with it? And I guess that the question is, my job, 50% I like, 50% I'm not really keen on, but you have got to do it all, right? So when you fill so many roles, you get to have more things that you don't like to do.
Yeah.
So how do you manage it?
It's hard for sure, and you have to compromise. I think Thomas made a very good point about that it's definitely a skill that you have to develop, just scoping and prioritizing. You have to make difficult decisions very quickly about technology and what are we actually going to use for this project. And you don't have a lot of time to make those decisions, and if you make them wrong, it's going to cost you later on down the line in terms of technology involved and back end and all of that stuff. And it takes some time to figure out, for sure.
The design process on a game like this, is it something that you sort of put on paper first and then execute? Is it something you experiment with? How does it work?
Yeah, there's right now I have a very good community for Soul, mostly on Discord. So a lot of the development now into the game in terms of balance and content is sort of iterative together with the community. And that's so much more important when you're solo deving that, because you have no one else to bounce with. I'm lucky I have an old school friend who's consulting with me on the project purely for just bouncing ideas,
Yeah.
And that's so valuable.
So he's a war gamer as well?
Yes, we played the game back in our childhood together, and now we can bounce ideas. And I don't think it would be possible to make a game like this without, because when you're solo deving, it's so easy to get stuck into your own mind. And just...
Does he play disc golf at all?
No, I should get him to do that, actually.
I think you should. One hard choice you made, I think it's more like a business choice, but it's interesting you made it. You went free to play with Soul.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Which for a war game, it's interesting because a war game has a very specific audience.
Right.
And it's almost like you don't want people who are not very much interested about the game to sort of touch it because they will not understand it, right? How do you cope with it? How did it go?
Yeah, that's it was an interesting choice, and partly probably because I come from mobile.
Yeah.
This golf game was entirely on mobile. It's also on Steam now, but so that was my background, and I think my thinking around it was very much that this is a niche game. So, you know, getting the first, say, 1,000 players, that's the tricky part. But once you have the first 1,000, getting to like 10,000 is still hard, but easier than that. And that part is so much easier if you are free to play. There is no barrier. You just click download, play the game, and you're in. There are, you know, downsides to it as well. It needs to be a game that actually grabs people, because if they just play for a few hours and then leave, you make no money. So it has to be sticky and keep people around and keep them interested. So you need some confidence in the game, right? That it's actually going to keep people playing and buying stuff in it because they like it, right?
Do you see the same behaviors on free-to-play on mobile and free-to-play on consoles?
It's different.
Oh, sorry,
it's
on PC,
definitely. There's difference. It's interesting comparing the numbers because you get a lot of numbers on conversion rates and stuff like that. And it's actually been very strong on Steam, conversion rates. Surprisingly, I thought it would be more resistance on that platform compared to mobile. But it might be a strategy that more people should explore for different genres. You know, there's also this free-to-play hub on Steam, which is like a separate landing page that people seek out. And the top lists on that page are totally different, right? Because you're not competing with the premium games. There are very premium free-to-play games as well, right? That you're competing with that you can never really compete with. But it can actually be easier to get visibility sometimes on a page like that, right? Compared to...
Did the free-to-play thing impact on your general perception of the game, reviews, you know, people saying, oh, I don't like it?
That's always the concern, right? That you're bringing in people who don't understand the type of game. But I think also those people probably bounce off pretty early in their journey in trying the game and are probably not invested enough to even give a review. The people who give a review are, you know, strategy gamers who have strong opinions about strategy games and are like, this is wrong, you know. Halberds should not work like that. They should work like that. Those people will give a review. But someone who thought this was, you know, an action RPG or something are probably going to bounce in the first 5 minutes and then not.
Yeah, not leave a review because, I guess being free to play, they don't have anything to moan about, I guess.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
it gives you...
$24, $30, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It gives you some leeway on that. People have a bit more tolerance for bugs and poor graphics when they haven't paid any money. So
yeah. Well, one thing about porting, but I guess having a war game, a digital war game, a little bit like having a digital board game. It's like you like the human interaction. There's a lot less to the game than you have when it's physical. So how do you kind of make up for what is missing?
Yeah, there's an interesting similarity there, I guess, between the disc golf game and a tabletop war game, in that you can never really compete with the real thing. Going out and actually playing disc golf or playing a tabletop war game on a table with a friend is always going to be more engaging, always more fun. So you have to find other ways of being attractive to players and to customers. And For a war game, you know, you can make it easier to find an opponent. You can have an AI opponent, you know, you can play against a computer, a campaign. For Soul, a big part of that design of that game was just UI and UX. Making sure that the experience of moving your units around and declaring charges and casting spells, all of that had to feel really snappy and easy to do. Because, you know, playing a tabletop game on a table is pretty fiddly. There's a lot of dice and moving things and getting everything into place. Even playing on something like Tabletop Simulator, pretty fiddly. So if you can deliver an experience that is just, you know, super smooth, you can play a game in 20 minutes maybe instead of 3 hours.
Yeah. But one thing we keep seeing from you know, the adaptations is the use of dice. You know, people are usually less. Players tend to think that if you're replicating a dice in digital form, the system is cheating.
Yeah.
Do you see that happen?
It's one of the most common feedbacks I get. Like, why is the dice system broken? Why are they? And it's interesting, right? I think it has a lot to do with human psychology, how we think about randomness. We're very poor at actually noticing if something is random or not. And when we play on a table, we don't really have a choice because we know it's dice we're rolling, and we're not rolling the volume of dice. When you're playing a full campaign in Soul, you're rolling so much dice, but you don't really notice it because it's just happening quickly, you know, digitally. So it's hard to, you really remember the bad rolls when you roll like 5 once in a row, and it's a quirk of human psychology.
Sometimes, I mean, we had a game called Heroes of Normandy back, you know, a few years ago, just an adaptation of a board game.
Yeah.
And when we launched it, we had a dice rolling mechanic, and we had to sort of hide it.
Yeah.
Because we had so much flag.
Yeah.
You know, the system was working perfectly fine, but you know, people were thinking,
the classic example is XCOM, right? Those games, they get so much complaints because you have a 95% chance to hit, and then people get really angry when they miss when it's 95%.
Yeah, well, it's still 5% miss chance to not hit. So
it's also an interesting design thing where people will also give that feedback to Soul that I don't care about the dice. I want to play the game just as a game, not as with a tabletop experience. So just skip the dice and let me move on to the result. And I think that's one of those issues where you kind of have to ignore that player feedback, because there are people who want to play Soul as a game, but the main like core audience are tabletop players, and they want the tabletop experience. So you have to be careful when you listen to your player base to make sure that are those players actually the ones who are going to be playing this game in 6 months or a year, or are they just like quickly trying it out and like, why are there a bunch of dice here? I don't care about that. Just give me the game instead. So,
do you find? I mean, I guess that I'm just assuming this, but I guess that there's more players on PC than mobile. I mean, mobile
it's
just
actually
launched,
about
right?
the same now.
Oh, right.
So yeah,
okay.
there's
so
a lot of active players on mobile. Yeah,
Okay.
it's financially it's not quite as strong as on Steam yet, but you know the numbers. If you compare it to Disc Golf Valley on mobile, there are so many more players on mobile platforms than on PC and Mac.
Yeah.
So you can get very high numbers of players, but you need more players to make the same amount of money.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
So
the big
monetization
difference.
on mobile is slower than on PC at the moment, I guess.
Yes.
You know? Okay.
Yeah.
And the numbers, I mean, you've got like the system where you have free to play, and then you've got like a number of like DLCs that are, you know, factions and things. And, do you see, how do you track these? You know, do you see there's trends? Do you see there's favorites ones?
Yeah.
And how are the favorites performing?
There's interesting data to look at there. You can sort of see how it follows, you know, the meta trends in the ranked multiplayer portion of the game. So the strong factions, people of course want to play the strong factions. And I come from a BI, business intelligence, so like a data background. So I have data on everything in Soul, you know, for the multiplayer side, I have win rates for every faction, every commander, every unit type, every item you can purchase for the units, and so it's very data driven. Probably a bit overkill, but
yeah. Do you do too much of it?
I mean, it's fun, and it's nice to when you get player feedback and they tell you this thing is way too strong or this thing is way too weak. You can show them data and go like, well, actually, if you look at this, it's like this. So.
Is AI helping you analyzing all these data now, or is it something that you're experimenting with?
I haven't tried it on the data side. I think there are actually tools for that now. I'm using Unity's own, data services. So I think there might be some tools for that built in now that I haven't tested yet, but that would be interesting.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. The idea of Soul is interesting because, again, it's something that you probably want. If you practice in digital, you'll probably become better at the physical at some point. I guess it's not the same for the disc golf thing. If you practice a lot in digital, I don't think you get better at the physical, right?
I've heard from some disc golfers that they actually learn some new things from playing the digital game, about discs. I think it's an interesting aside to that is also that it's always fun when you've built a game and you add some kind of multiplayer competitive mode and you realize that you are not the best at the game anymore. And now I'm like in Soul, if I try to play that ranked now, I get crushed every time.
Really? Oh wow. Okay.
People get so good at games. It's crazy.
Is that you feel like they've found a way of winning the game, or is it more like they're just getting better at it?
So Soul has a lot of strategic depth in this, especially in the movement phase. And you have to learn how to see, the positioning of the units. And so it's very much a case of where if I play against someone and they crush me, if I switch to their army and they switch to mine, they will still crush me with my own army because they know all the positioning tricks and exactly how to trick you into placing your stuff in the wrong place. And
all right, okay. Did you had any sort of inspiration from any game doing Soul? Is that something that you sort of started just mimicking physical, or was it some digital stuff as well that you...
Yeah, I mean, Soul is very much inspired by old wargames, right? So Warhammer Fantasy, I played the old editions of Warhammer Fantasy before it got exploded, the world. It's also back now, of course, Warhammer Fantasy in a different flavor, but it's based on these old versions and maybe even more on some of the like spin-offs from that.
Okay.
So when Warhammer Fantasy was out of commission for a few years, a lot of other games showed up. For example, there's one called One Page Rules, which is like a simplified version of these games, which I took a lot of inspiration from. So, great game, One Page Rules. Check that out.
That's something we'll definitely do. And are you now more attached to Soul or to the Discord? Is that something you can say? It's like babies, right? You're like kids.
I work full time now on the disc golf game, so that's my main priority. But I took 6 months off last year to work only on Soul, and I would probably have to do that again at some point. Just to add more content and new factions.
The kid needs attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good to be able to bounce between two different things, so you don't get completely. After 5 years, you're going to get tired of frisbees, and probably the other way around as well. So.
On the disc golf, it's interesting because I guess that in war games we see that war gamers play digital war games, right? Do you see that 100% of disc golf players are actually playing disc golf in the physical world, or is it?
I don't have the exact numbers on that, but just from my own experience, if I go and play disc golf on a course and I meet someone on there, I will usually ask them, so hey, do you play Disc Golf Valley? 100% yes. So
wow, okay.
I think we have pretty good market saturation with
that
game.
I guess 100% is definitely a good number coming from a BI guy.
It's not a typical gaming audience. It's usually people who have no other games on their phone. It's just Disc Golf Valley. And they probably don't have a PC or a console, it's just...
I actually downloaded it, and I think I will give it a go. And do you think that if I like the digital version, I'll probably enjoy the sport as well?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to look up if there's a course here in Milan. I'm pretty sure there is somewhere.
I mean, I think it's going to be our next offsite for all the
It's
employees.
a good after-work activity with the team.
You don't have to sell it to me. It's already done. Pierre, thank you for joining us. It's fascinating how you came from like two very different like passions, not only hobbies but passions, and made a business out of both. It's 100% success, right? Do you have any other passion?
Yeah, so far 2 for 2. Let's see
if
it keeps going.
What's the next one? Like cooking or?
I have a lot of ideas,
Okay,
but
cool.
not enough time.
Well, you've got to add 6 months to the year now.
Yeah.
It's an interesting challenge for you. But thanks for joining us. It's fascinating how you're dealing with everything. So I am looking forward to seeing what's next. And I've got 5 questions for you.
Yep. You can't throw like these fast questions at strategic gamers. We're like turn-based gamers, So we need
you
to
take some
think
time
a lot.
to don't overthink stuff. So are you ready? Okay, so 3, 2, 1. What non-athlete personality would be a perfect testimonial for disc golf?
Non-athlete? I know there are some actors that play the game. I guess I know that some of the Game of Thrones actors play it, but yeah, that's a tricky question for disc golf. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe some game developers need to get into it so we get some overlap.
We'll do.
Yeah,
We've got
I
Henry
don't think I
Cavill
have.
for Warhammer, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I don't think I have a single player who plays both Soul and Disc Golf Valley, so we need some overlap there between those.
Plastic discs or plastic miniatures?
Both, yeah. Don't make me choose. My garage is full with both of them. So.
Favorite war game ever?
Wargame. I mean, I like Warhammer Fantasy. I have a lot of nostalgia for that game.
What strategy gameplay idea you wish was yours?
Wish was mine. I mean, I did start working on a card game like roguelike just before Slay the Spire came out. So that was painful.
Okay.
It would not have been as good as Slay the Spire, obviously. But
Always be first, as Tomas Sala says.
Yeah.
Turn-based, real-time, or WeGo?
I like turn-based, actually.
Turn-based it is, then.
I think my brain is slow. So I need some time to-
Thank you very much for joining us, Per, and good luck with all the projects.
Thank you.
It was great having you. This was Per Wahlstedt, guys. Happy to, receive all your questions and give them to Per. If you've got any, make sure that you join us for more next month, next guests. A little bit of a break, and then we've got another special guest coming. So, guys, you know that we have a part of the hot seat dedicated to games that people play and you might want advice on. Last month we had 2D Kiri, content creator 2D Kiri, joining us to give us some advice. This month we have the boldest content creator in the world, Burke Black. You've got a hat. You've got a hat. Hey, how are you?
How you doing?
All good.
I'm doing great.
Good stuff. Good stuff. It's in a month you can play a lot of games. How many games do you play in a month?
Oh, geez. Because of my variety nature, I'm definitely double digits for sure. Maybe 30, 40 different games potentially.
Wow, that's a lot. And how many of them are because you really want to play, or just experimenting with stuff, finding out new things? Is it more like how many games you return to often, and then how many games you just find out new stuff?
I'm really drawn to like really weird games. So like the more crazy it is, the more I'm like, because I like seeing how developers think, and when they get the freedom to do some crazier ideas, I like to try that. So not all hit, but some are like, if it's kind of weird looking, I'm like, I'll give it a shot, because like Frostpunk is an example of a weird city builder that you wouldn't expect would work, and then it ended up being an incredible experience. So I would say like at least half are probably like games that I'm just trying to just see if like, does it hit, or is it just something that I just want to take a peek at, or just various things like that.
Yeah. Do you always play what you want, or you always do like also what your community wants? Because you've got a fairly sizable community of followers, right?
Yeah, I play what I want. Yeah, pretty much just whatever strikes my fancy at the time. Pretty much.
Cool.
Sometimes I can make a decision like I'll go live and I don't even know what I'm going to play yet. And sometimes it's just like I just look at a couple glances of. Sometimes the community will recommend games in like a suggestions place, or I have a booty board, like I track new releases that are coming out, and I'll just watch trailers and be like, yeah, that looks kind of cool, like something I would probably try. And next thing I know, I'm playing that. So
give it a go. That's really cool. What did you play this last month then?
Well, when it comes to strategy, we did a game called World Box. World Box is an interesting game. This was literally just came down to that looks cool. Strategy game set with like you kind of let the AI kind of play, and then you kind of manipulate. So you're kind of like a spectator as a god game. Like you decide like if you want to help them or punish them or whatever. And in the world of like the rise of AI, as people call it now, it's interesting to see these games where AI is kind of like creating a world, and their individual societies are creating themselves, and you as the player is just kind of like dictating who survives and who doesn't.
All right. Is that a game? Where is it? Where can we find World Box?
I think that this is on Steam.
All right. Okay. That's a Steam game. That's a Steam game. Is it something that you keep going back to? Is it a new game?
No, this is the first time I played it was like this month. So
okay.
I don't think it's brand new or anything like that. I just didn't know about it.
That's
some
cool.
games are just they come out ages ago or something like that, and then I finally hear about it. But it was fun. I could create. I tried to create like a Dark Lord in the North, who would, like Game of Thrones, where he would just descend down and cause chaos into the. It's fantasy basically. You have like elves and all this other stuff, and dwarves and the undead and demonic entities, and there's this like they have even a Godzilla giant crab that you could drop down that just goes wrecks havoc and all this stuff. So I don't know how often I'd come back to it, but like. For what I played, it was a good time for at least if the few hours that we streamed it.
That's really
fun.
cool, and I think it's also interesting to see. This is a game that I don't know if they validated with the community, but it's different enough to be like this, maybe a crazy experiment of someone, rather than just being something that we'll try and launch something that's absolutely validated by the market before launching it.
Exactly. This is something to try, and that's the beauty of indie devs. Like, AAA, you don't have nearly as much freedom to just make whatever you like. Whereas like these indie guys, they could just churn something out and throw out a couple of YouTube videos, and then it's on Steam, and there it is. And who knows what? Sometimes that's how some really great ideas come. Who knows what might latch on to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next one.
World Front, I think it's called Open Front. Yeah, Open Front. Yeah, this one was kind of like I saw a YouTube video. I'll be honest. I do content creation, and I too can also be influenced by content creators. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think it was just like I saw this guy, and it's like it plays on a web page. I think they're gonna make a Steam version. I don't think that's out yet, but you choose the size of the map. You choose it's completely mouse based. So it's like you click where you want to be, and then you're clicking, you're spending your manpower, and you can do some strategy stuff to it. Like you can set up like army bases and cities and defensive points and stuff like that. So it has a lot more depth than I realized, because I thought it was just a clicking game, but it ended up being a lot of fun. It's a game that like all the community can play because there's no price to it, right? So you just give them the link and they could all just join. So we have these massive games, you know, where people are just setting up their defenses and dropping nukes, as you can see there, and they're just causing chaos, and it's fun.
Is it multiplayer? So you play against human opponents or AI?
You can do both.
All right.
And both at the same time.
So it's ultimately a kind of Fortnite version of a strategy game, I guess. You know, it's a battle royale of strategy games.
Yeah, you could call it that.
It's very cool, actually. Can you nuke people?
Yep. You can do the atomic
here
bomb.
It is.
Right
I didn't know about that. That's really cool.
And then you watch it, boom.
Cool. That's really cool.
You're trying to take out their cities. You know, like they're building cities for like for income. The bombs get bigger. You're building battleships to go patrol the oceans and interrupt their trade. It was a lot of fun. We did it for a couple rounds just randomly one night, and it was like, man, this is a lot more fun than I thought. I'd like to do more of this.
It's kind of the thing that also triggers reactions, I guess. You know, as in, you know, it generates anxiety more than anything else.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, you can see other people performing better than you. You're just like overwhelmed by their power. It's really cool, really cool. That's so that's called Open Front, and it's a browser game for now. Coming to Steam. What's your third one?
The Broken Arrow. That's
right,
the last one that I actually got really into was Broken Arrow. So, I mean, I really like history, and I really like fictional settings, you know, that are kind of grounded in like the reality. As much as I'm like a massive fan of games like Total War Warhammer and Dawn of War, because I'm freaking can't wait for Dawn of War 4, but I like these games where it's like you have the entire field of battlefield. You know, like it's like what a true open frontline battle would look like, especially in modern times, you know. So yeah, you know, there was something like Broken Arrow comes out, and it's a true combined arms kind of game. Yeah, that takes me back to being a kid playing with the GI Joes. You know, like I got all my army men, all my little tanks and everything.
Yeah. How much do you play, Burke? Is that something you do like for a long time every day? Is that something you play on your own and you live stream, or is it something you just like seamlessly do during your day? Is it?
I stream like 8 hours a day, so I think I take like one day off. I know I take one day off.
Yeah.
I take one day off. I honestly like it. I've done it for so long, like 12 years streaming now. It's weird to play games solo now, like without streaming, because like it's an awkward. Now it's awkward to not have that audience there.
All right.
It's like if something cool happens, I'm like, oh man, I'm not live. You know, like I'm so used to reacting and just, you know, having fun with other people that are watching and stuff like that and commenting, that it's no. So I don't really play a lot of games off stream, because most of the time I want to savor that experience for when I'm live with the audience that is watching. So like, I don't want to like, you know, have to pretend to be surprised for the first time to see something. Like, wow, you know, I've already seen this, but I got to react.
One thing, you know, just last question for you, but I'm very curious about. You are one of the few people out there who make strategy games exciting to people. You know, you get excited about stuff. You get, you know, your community gets involved in things. Usually strategy games are perceived as cerebral, boring,
dull and,
dull
and boring to
thing.
watch. Yeah.
Is that something that comes off your just a personality, or do you think that you found a key to sort of popularize the strategy gaming, strategy games to people? Is that something that you've noticed?
I think it just comes down to this, like the role play aspect of it. Get them involved. Of the empire is rising. Like we're gonna plan our invasion for here. You really got to just throw yourself into the game's universe and just role play with it. And then I think people resonate more with that instead of just. There are definitely streamers that are like, very ones and zeros. This is, I need this for the stat boost. I need this for that. This or that. I'm definitely not that guy. I'm not that smart. Like as a strategy gamer, no one's ever going to tune into Burke Black for like high-end knowledge gameplay. What they're going to tune in is because they just want to go on a goofy adventure where I'll do green screen bits of like being on the field of battle while an epic charge is happening, or having a panic moment like, oh gosh, my forces are all crumbling before me. Just enjoy the role play of it.
But really, truly, congratulations on how you're taking a different spin on strategy, because we really appreciate your way of dealing with it. It's great because we need more enthusiasm across the board, I guess. So thanks for bringing that over to us, and thanks for the advice on the games. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Burke, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Right, so guys, next month we'll have 2D Kira again, and then we'll sort of do one sort of alternate every month. Before we leave, a few updates on what we are doing or we have done in the past month, just because we want to keep you up to date on our latest. So what's happened in the last month? We have released a new DLC for Terminator Dark Fate Defiance called Uprising. Surprisingly, adding a game mode. It's not a campaign. We've added a game mode and sort of made it a bit of a roguelite, give it a bit of a roguelike atmosphere to Terminator. Did very, very well. Give it a go. I think this is kind of the reason why we think that RTSs have a big future, because this is showed us by Starship Troopers and Broken Arrow, but Terminator gave us good advice on Terminator is a hardcore RTS, but the solid community behind it and the reception we have on new content has been amazing. So you should probably try it out if you didn't yet. There was another paid for DLC released on this one for Panzer Corps, the latest on the Frontlines series. It's called Westwall. This is just released. Again, on Frontlines, we are focusing on very specific operation theaters instead of going like full, World War II big scenarios. There's very focused scenarios and a campaign that covers very specific theaters. Westwall is the latest, and if you are a Panzer Corps owner, just check it out. If you're not, just buy Panzer Corps sake. Starship Troopers content update. That was the latest update we had on Starship Troopers. As you guys know, we haven't released any paid for DLC for a long time for Starship Troopers because the development team is working on what we call the 2.0 version of the game, which is coming later this year. A lot of new content, and you've seen there is a new mode in the game. You can test if you own the game. Very, very good feedback so far. So, get ready for some big changes on the Starship Troopers franchise. And last but not least, we have released some free maps for Headquarters World War II. From the title, you can guess it's a lot of new scenarios based on cities and towns. They are all new scenarios based on urban warfare. The Headquarters community has been screaming for more scenarios on skirmish mode, so that was the main goal for for this game, waiting for the next big thing. There's going to be big news about headquarters later on this year. Next month, we have two big guests, I guess. The big guests we have for next month are the creator and studio director for mobile game Polytopia, Felix Eckenstam, and the CEO of Slipgate, makers of Tempest Rising, this year's RTS sensation, Tempest Rising, Frederick Schreiber. We'll see you next month, third Wednesday of September. 23rd, is it, guys? 24th. Sorry, I got one day wrong. 24th of September is the next episode of the Hot Seat. You can always go back and check the episode on YouTube. We're going to upload everything on Spotify as well, and on the on Twitch. You can still see it on demand. Make sure you check it out if you didn't follow the entire episode. And well, I guess I see you next month with more thinking about strategy games and more subjects to talk about. I'll see you next month.